The following video is intended for mature audiences. It contains horror elements, adult themes, and language that might not be suitable for younger viewers. Horror cinema is a fertile ground for exploring our deepest, most primal fears. These fears often stay with audiences long after the film ends. A recent analysis of Wes Craven's original The Last House on the Left sparked an interest in examining the psychology within this film and comparing it to its later remake. Both versions present a haunting journey that forces us to confront humanity's dark side and the profound extent of parental love. These films leave a lasting impression with their explicit violence, graphic content, and deeply unsettling psychological terror. At their core, they examine the terrifying idea of what happens when ordinary people reach their breaking point. As a fan of both versions of The Last House on the Left, watching them felt like an exhausting emotional roller coaster ride from start to end. Some scenes were so vivid and distressing that they were difficult to watch. However, the true horror lies not just in the on-screen brutality, but also in the deep emotional residue these films leave behind. What sets these movies apart from common slasher films is how skillfully they intertwine themes of family ties, revenge, and the moral ambiguity surrounding justice. While 1972's version is a groundbreaking work in filmmaking, its 2009 counterpart enhances what made its predecessor successful while offering a more polished reinterpretation, which I believe surpasses its original in terms of execution and emotional depth. Both versions share the same premise, a harsh tale of vengeance and survival. A family's tranquil life is shattered when their daughter Mary becomes the victim of Krug's brutal gang. After escaping her captor's clutches, an injured Mary unknowingly returns home where her attackers also find refuge, unaware that their host is related to their victim. After learning about what happened, Mary's parents execute a chilling revenge, showcasing raw and brutal justice. The 1972 film, directed by Wes Craven, was groundbreaking for its time. It pushed limits with its persistent violence and raw portrayal of human brutality. The 2009 remake remains faithful to the original narrative, but refines the story to offer a more modern interpretation with superior performances, improved pacing, and heightened emotional intensity. Craven's The Last House on the Left appears to originate from pure, unfiltered anger. Drawing inspiration from Ingmar Bergman's The Virgin Spring, the film forgoes any cinematic glamour in favor of a gritty filmmaking approach. Despite being filmed on a tight budget, the movie's aesthetic is rough, a quality that enhances its effectiveness. The violence shown feels real and immediate. What distinguishes the original is its constant focus on humanity's brutal side. It doesn't avoid portraying horrifying acts, forcing viewers to face humanity's darkest sides. Mary's assault is graphically shown, an experience that proves hard to watch not just because of physical violence, but also due to Craven's depiction of subsequent psychological trauma. With its rawness making it feel like an attack on the senses, viewers are left emotionally drained by the end credits. Performances in the original may be less refined compared to those in the remake, but possess undeniable authenticity. David Hesse's portrayal of Krug is genuinely terrifying. His character enjoys his actions. His lack of regret makes him one of horror cinema's most unsettling villains ever. Mary's parents represent average middle-class individuals pushed beyond their boundaries. Their descent into revenge is both horrifying and cathartic. However, even this influential work has flaws. Sudden tonal shifts, notably including misplaced slapstick humor from two incompetent police officers, disrupt the film's tension and horror. These moments create an inconsistent experience that distracts viewers from the narrative. Despite these shortcomings, the film remains a landmark in horror cinema, with an influence that continues to resonate throughout the genre. The 2009 remake of The Last House on the Left, helmed by Dennis Iliadis, is a polished reimagining of Wes Craven's 1972 original. It keeps the key elements that made the first film a classic, but adds a more refined and emotionally charged story. This updated version stands out mainly for its exploration of the psychological and emotional consequences of violence. Unlike the unrefined, disorderly nature of the original movie, this remake takes a calculated approach to pacing and execution. It lets tension build slowly until it erupts into scenes of shocking intensity. This rhythmic progression lifts the film from mere shock value to a deep dive into human savagery. A notable improvement in this remake is its control over tone. The misplaced comedic breaks that marred the 1972 version are gone. Instead, it sustains an unrelenting sense of fear and suspense throughout. The graphic violence serves not just as a shock factor, but as meaningful storytelling, heightening emotional stakes rather than merely startling viewers. The acting in this remake also significantly surpasses its predecessor. Tony Goldwyn and Monica Potter, playing Mary's parents, deliver powerful performances that form the emotional core of the film. Their depiction of bereaved parents driven to revenge is both deeply touching and terrifyingly realistic. Their journey from helpless victims to avenging protectors creates both a heartbreaking and chilling story arc. Garrett Dillahunt fills David Hess's role as Krug with a controlled menace distinct from Hess's wilder portrayal. His Krug is scary because he exudes control. He knows exactly what he's doing and feels no regret for his horrific actions. One major difference between these two films lies in Mary's character development. Unlike her mostly passive role in the original movie, the remake gives Mary more power, with her actions crucial in driving the climax of the film. This change not only makes her character more compelling, but also adds depth to the film's exploration of survival and revenge. Both versions of The Last House on the Left probe into the unsettling theme of the human capacity for violence. They aren't just about a family seeking revenge. They explore how violence can change people both physically and mentally. The brutality inflicted on Mary and her friend is terrifying, but what's even more disturbing is how this violence incites further violence, driving Mary's parents to commit acts of retribution that are equally horrific. There's a clear separation in both films between Krug and his gang, the initial instigators of violence, and Mary's parents who seek justice for their daughter. But as the parents descend into their cycle of revenge, the boundary between right and wrong starts to fade. As viewers, we are left grappling with uncomfortable questions. Is violence ever justified? What would we do if put in a similar situation? And most troublingly, does vengeance turn us into monsters like those who committed the initial crime? This exploration of vengeance morality gives both films psychological weight. The horror isn't limited to graphic violence. It lies in how such savagery strips away humanity, exposing primal instincts. The transformation from ordinary people to brutal avengers is a journey into humanity's darkest corners. It's this psychological shift that makes The Last House on the Left deeply unnerving. At the heart of both versions of The Last House on the Left is parental love and vengeance, a parent's readiness to go to extreme lengths to protect or avenge their child. This theme takes these films beyond simple exploitation movies, giving them emotional depth. In the remake, this theme echoes even louder. It spends time building Mary's relationship with her parents before disaster strikes, showing love that makes the subsequent events all the more heartrending. Their plunge into violence isn't driven by a lust for revenge, but by an urgent need to set things right. The depiction of parental vengeance is both horrifying and cathartic. The parents' violence mirrors the brutality inflicted on their daughter, creating a disturbing parallel. Yet, there's a grim satisfaction in seeing justice served, however brutal it may be. Their actions are morally ambiguous, but the film urges viewers to empathize with them and understand their anger and need for revenge. The Last House on the Left, in both its original and remake versions, offers a viewing experience that can be difficult to stomach. The films use violence with such unflinching starkness that it often pushes the boundaries of what viewers can bear. However, it's not the sheer graphic nature of these scenes that gives them their impact, but rather the emotional weight they carry. This isn't violence for violence's sake. Each harsh act is deeply interwoven with emotion, whether it's Mary and her friend's tangible fear or her parents' boiling anger. In the 1972 version, this raw portrayal of violence significantly amplifies the film's shock factor. Its lack of polish lends an almost documentary-like realism to the movie, making violent scenes feel alarmingly real and immediate. Its 2009 remake maintains this rawness while presenting a more refined execution. Here, violence isn't used to diminish, but to bolster emotional stakes. Audiences may find the explicit content overwhelming, yet this is where its effectiveness lies. These aren't movies meant for casual viewing. They demand your focus and force you to confront humanity's darkest tendencies. The unease triggered by such brutality serves a purpose. It intensifies the story's emotional punch and imprints itself permanently into your memory. The Last House on the Left remains an enduring horror narrative in both iterations. While the 1972 production is recognized as a groundbreaking cinema in all its raw intensity, its 2009 successor takes those elements that worked well in the original and refines them into a more emotionally charged interpretation. Both versions are deeply disturbing, not just due to their graphic violence, but also because they probe into humanity's darkest corners. As a viewer who was both repelled and captivated by these films, I found myself on an unforgettable emotional ride. At their heart, both versions explore parental love and revenge, a theme that infuses these films with emotional depth and psychological horror. While the original will always hold its place in horror film history, in my opinion, the remake surpasses it in execution and emotional impact. Both versions of The Last House on the Left are challenging to watch but are regarded as must-sees for any horror fan seeking narratives that not only shock, but also stimulate thought. These films will stay with you long after their end credits, haunting you with their relentless exploration of violence, vengeance, and the horrifying power of love. I reviewed the 1972 version of The Last House on the Left earlier on the channel. It is a splatter B-horror crime thriller that is 1 hour and 24 minutes long and is rated R. The Southern Underworld gave it 4 bloody knives. The 2009 version of The Last House on the Left is a splatter horror thriller that is 1 hour and 53 minutes long and is rated R. I liked the remake slightly more than the original. The Southern Underworld gives it 4.5 bloody knives. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.